And welcome to the first edition of For Real Politics. I'm your host, Ty Jensen, and today we have a very unique situation that we have to keep going over because the left and the Democrats, it's the culture war, this is a social war, and it starts right here, right now. And the first thing I want to really talk to you guys about today is this EV climate and this EV crisis that we're going to have, especially in the state of California. Now, the state of California, as we all know, is an absolute shit show dumpster fire, and it's all because of these progressive movements, this progressive activism about getting rid of carbon emissions, man, and introducing and injecting and throwing down the throats for electric vehicles. This is a great problem now. The great problem is that where we get electricity from, we get from sustainable coal, fusion energy, nuclear energy. But these climate activists and these social progressives, what do they really want? They want total control, and they want to roll out these EV electric vehicles all over the map. But if you look in California, they're having a really hard time, especially with new tax dollars. As soon as they start to push away from combustion engines all the way to these electric vehicles, the problem is where those new taxes going to come from? Well, Greasy Gavin Newsom does not have an answer to those problems. In fact, he's going to now charge EV drivers a lot more in lost tax revenue to make up for the combustion engine dissidents that are leaving. Now, if you drive a combustion engine, obviously that's the only way to go because we know that they're safe, reliable, and that it cannot be manipulated. That means if they want to introduce this whole 2030 agenda, where it's the one world order, that anybody in the federal government can't go click on a button and then shut your vehicle off, because they can't do that with the combustion engines. And we really have to make sure that these electric vehicles do not have that capability. And I know that Elon Musk, warrior for freedom of speech, is not going to allow that to happen, but there are some vehicles that came out of Tesla in the recent year that have said, hey, look, we can shut you off with a remote from 1,000 miles away, not a problem. That's a very dangerous precedent. But going back to the California's EV problem, and what I mean by the rolling blackouts they are having because of these electric grid problems is because of the charging stations. These charging stations are not fully equipped for millions upon millions of active EV charges at the same time. Therefore, it creates rolling blackouts. Now, if you do have an EV charging station within a couple blocks, you might have another one within another mile if you're in Southern California. If you get Central and Northern California, let's say Sacramento, Golden State area with San Francisco and Oakland, you might have a lot more charging stations than you would, going east inside the interior of California. But are all these Pacific Coast charging stations going to be sustainable? The answer is no. The problem is these rolling blackouts are basically, when it comes down to it, is the WEF and the WHO, the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization. It's their absolute war on energy production, especially with coal, with oil, and any other type of earth fuels that we have right now that are sustaining ourselves until we can build a better infrastructure for nuclear, for hydro, for hydrogen energy, for fusion energy. But the climate activists, they don't want that. They want to sit here and cram down the American people's throat in any way, shape, or form because it's a culture war. Because they see it as we're trying to save the planet, and if you don't go along to get along, then you're going to be out. Hello, the combustion engine, they want to get rid of those because it releases carbon into the air, even though they don't really take into effect that everything we have is literally made from carbon, even us as human beings. That is what they don't want to admit, because the World Economic Forum says no more fossil fuels, no more ancient, unprecedented fuels. They want us to sit here and be like, we're in control. We're going to tell you what to do, and the American people are going to sit here and be like, yeah, no, that's not. Here's two burgers for you. That's not the way it is. But if you look at California with the EV problem, with the rolling blackouts, I feel bad for the people of California. They just want to stay politically neutral, or with the GOP Republican, or just independent, do not want to go along with this overhaul of the climate activists. but it's really not a problem. We welcome those guys with open arms into all these other states. We just don't want those liberal policies to come with them. That's where we have the problem. But I want to know what your take is. If you live in California, I want to hear about your story with the rolling blackouts down in the comments. But the new taxes, because right now California had $30 million, right, in regular passenger vehicles. That was basically combustion engines. Now with the going to the electric vehicles and the tax write-offs that come with those, is California going to have this massive problem? And we think yes. This is going to be a massive problem for Gavin Newsom coming re-election time, because that money is not going to be there, and I cannot be overjoyed, if he leaves office. But the problem is, Democrats have already ran it into the ground. California is a literal shithole, and it will always stay a literal shithole as long as progressive Democrats stay in charge. Which brings me now to the next topic, and this is for the 2024 election rolling into 2025. Now, we all know Democrats hate Donald Trump. They must stop him at all any way, shape, or form, in any means necessary. They want to stop this man because they have TDS. They have Trump deranged syndrome. They are basically saying orange man bad all the time, every time, all day, every day. So, what is their 2025 plan to stop President Trump? Court cases, lawsuits, get him injunctions, get him indicted on felony charges, which they already did because it was a corrupt judge in the state of New York who went along with this whole plan that they ran on to get Trump, get him out. Well, the thing is, it's starting to backfire with the American public, because what the American public are starting to see is that if you're willing to go after a former president, then you're willing to go after the American people. It is night and day. People see the bullshit that is happening in these court proceedings. They are seeing a corrupt DOJ. They are seeing a corrupt attorney generals around the United States. They're seeing a corrupt two-tier justice system, which does not uphold the constitutional law for we, the people of the United States. This thing right here, this thing, the Declaration of Independence, is which they're saying we don't want nothing to do with, and whatever these guys say, the establishment, that's what goes, especially when it comes down to court cases on a state level to get Trump felony charges. All stops are coming out to stop Donald Trump from being the 47th president of the United States, because what they want is for Joe Biden to reclaim the presidency, probably die, have Kamala Harris come in and take over, which would be an absolute disaster, because she's basically like Gavin Newsom and how she is from California. She was a DA there who was a disastrous DA, and then all of a sudden now she's the vice president of the United States. Can you imagine the dumpster fire that would be under her presidency? Oh my God, we would just go into total chaos, if not another world war, because Democrats will do anything to destroy us and have that 2030 agenda of the one world order. And it's not just me saying this. Listen, people like me, people like Tim Pool, people like Vivek Ramaswamy, people like Donald Trump, we've all been saying it for a long time. And yes, I say Tim Pool in there, even though he is not a GOP member or a Republican in any way, shape, or form. He is an independent. He's a free thinker like myself. He's even said this time and time again, along with other variations of his group that have said, hey, look, this 2030 plan, they want to make it happen at all costs. They are pulling out all stops to make sure that 2030 plan happens, and we, the people, are in the way of that. And damn right we are. But what are the Democrats' true plans? Well, here's the thing. They already got him on felony charges up in the state of New York. Now they're going to look to the state of Georgia to make sure that he cannot be voted on in the general election in November. They're going to look at trying to overturn what Colorado State Supreme Court did and saying Trump was allowed to be on their Republican primary ballot. But they don't want him to be on the general election ballot. They will come out to all stops. And this is why they want the insurgents of the migrant crisis at the southern border. See, that's the loophole for them. If they can get people from other countries to come here and try to gain some sort of establishment as far as work history and work culture and try to overthrow the Republican Party as far as illegal votes, Look, they were trying to be doing this with the Social Security Administration when they released the numbers for the deceased voter rolls, and individual states got clean up those voter rolls. We're seeing an uptick in these voter registrations for Democrats. This has to come to a stop. And the only way we're going to do that is to get President Trump back in office. And that's not just him getting back in office, it's also an economic issue too. Look at the economy, the way it was. 4 years with Trump, 4 years now. You do the math. We are literally screwed over because of this administration, especially when he signed the executive order to kill the XL Keystone Pipeline. That was the first thing, because you saw what the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the S&P 500 and the S&P 100, you saw exactly what happened. And all their markets say, we're going to be going into a recession, we're going to be going into a depression, because if you stop something that significant when it comes to oil and gas that literally drives the economy and drives everything in our economy, from our goods, our services, our industry, our manufacturing. It goes all the way up from our food supply. If you stop that, you stop America, basically. And that is exactly what the Democrats and the social progressives want in this nation. Again, we the people, we're in their way, and we're saying, get back to your corner, you stay there, and you're in timeout, and you don't come out of timeout until we tell you. And hopefully, with Trump back in office, we can undo all these plans that the Democrats have put in place. But I'm going to know what your plan, I'm going to know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Is the 2025 plan a legitimate thing? What's your thoughts and feelings on this? And are they trying to stop Trump? And how do you think they will go along with their next plan to get him off the ballot, or to pull a 3 a.m. Voter Registration Act, which would basically be like, hey, here's a truckload of incoming ballots, and they're all going to be for one political party? We've already seen it done. So will we see that again in November? That is yet to be seen. But will it work? Let me know what your thoughts are below. And to our last segment of the day, and this is coming from my state of Utah. Now look, the United States is in a very good place when it comes to Olympics. All right, we've had the LA Olympics, we have the Atlanta Olympics, we've had the Utah Olympics in 2002, right? Now, when it comes to 2034 with the Winter Olympics, there's a catch here. There's a catch, and they're going to make sure they vote on this in Paris, France, on July 24th, that their final decision, because they are one vote away from making sure that the 2030 Olympic Games here in Salt Lake City happen. Well, here's the problem with that, with the Winter International Olympic Committee. There is going to be a massive surge of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, propped up inside any part of legislation that has to go through the state legislation and federal dollars that are going to be allocated towards the 2034 Winter Olympics. Now, the problem is how much are the taxpayers going to foot for this bill? As a taxpayer sitting on the state of Utah, I'm going to say I am not okay with this. It should be 100% privately funded. That we, the people, should not have to pay tax dollars for entertainment services for the entire world. That if rich people want to say, hey, here's a couple $100,000, here's a couple $1 million, or even $1 billion, let that $2.8 billion be from private donations and private funding, but not having backs on the backs of the Utah taxpayers, on the taxpayers of the American people. Not whatsoever. We should kill that right here, right now. But the problem is will the state of Utah and this current Governor Spencer Cox go along with that? And the answer is no. That's why he's being challenged by Bill Lyman, who is a state representative who is running for the governorship. And he said that Utah tax should not put in the bill for anything with the winter, the big deal. Yes, the Winter Olympics are a big deal, especially for the state. The Winter Olympics are a big deal for the United States, to have eyes on the United States, and which is a very good thing for the world for us to represent on a global stage. But I want to know what your thoughts and feelings are along this. But with the EPA, and here's the other catch. This comes down to climate change cultists. and climate change activists. We've already seen that parts of the Winter Olympic committees have already said that you have to overhaul all your carbon emissions before the 2034 games. Now, some of it is doable, some of it is not, especially where Utah has a really high inversion rate when it comes to smog. Now, that is, right now, it's unavoidable. Carbon capture technology has not hit the mainstream yet, and it should, but it hasn't got here yet. But part of the agreement with the Winter Olympic Committee is going to be climate change, and the climate cultists are going to take over, and we're going to have to push for zero carbon emissions. Again, here it comes down to the zero carbon emissions for something that has nothing to do with the everyday lives of the American people and the taxpayers. I want to know what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comment section down below. You have what, this is our first show, okay? And everything seems to be a little rushed. And just bear with us. Even though this is our first show, I want to say this. As a former political candidate in 2024, which was this year, I want to say shifting from mainstream politics into doing this show every single day, Monday through Friday, is going to be a blessing. It's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be doable. And I'm going to have absolutely every bit of fun coming and doing this. Instead of wearing a stuffy suit tie every single day. I would rather be in front of you. Subscribe and comment down below. Make sure you get a hold of us every single day right here at Raw Real Politics. And we will catch you next time. Thank you for watching this first episode of Raw. See you